So as we are dealing with dual nature of matter, there are few conclusions which you can learn from this particular slide. It is that light was supposed to be particle in nature initially. That was proposed by uh, Newton, by Newton corpuscular theory. Newton have proposed that light behaves in the form of particle, and he is able to explain few properties of light, like reflection and refraction. But Young and Fresnel, they have conducted some experiment and they have discovered interference, they have discovered diffraction. After the discovery of interference and diffraction, light, the nature of light so far in existence is particle that was been reframed, and it was supposed that light behaves in the form of wave. Of course, Maxwell equations of electromagnetism and Hertz experiments also support electromagnetic wave nature. They strongly support wave nature of light. But of course, in the end of 19th century, by cathode ray discharge tube experiment conducted by different scientists have led to many historical discoveries. One of the historic discovery is that X-rays discovered by Röntgen in 1895 and electron by J.J. Thomson in 1897. These two are discoveries of discharge tube experiment conducted by Röntgen and J.J. Thomson. And these are, of course, the milestones of modern atomic structure. So without the discovery of electron, we cannot reframe atomic model. So this led to a new era, which is the introduction to modern physics. And it is also been learned that at very low pressure, at 0.001 millimeter of mercury column, there can be different discharge taking place in the glass, like in the discharge tube, and from that they have considered, or they have learned the properties of cathode rays. So initially cathode rays was named, later those cathode rays are being named as electrons. So these are the conclusions from the slide, which is the introduction of dual nature of matter. Conclusions from this slide is that, as we already have seen, in a discharge tube, depending upon the nature of gas present in the discharge tube, there can be different colors of discharge happening. And the fluorescence which is being observed in the discharge tube was named as they are originating from the cathode, they are named as cathode rays. And these cathode rays were discovered by William Crook in 1870. Later, in 1879, J.J. Thomson have considered, experimentally he have conducted the same experiment, and he concluded that these cathode rays are negatively charged particles. And he also calculated speed of these negatively charged particles, also charge by mass ratio of these negatively charged particles. And it was practically observed that the speed of these negative charged particles are 0.1 to 0.2 times that of speed of light, and the accepted value of E by M ratio for these negatively charged particles is 1.76 into 10 power 11 coulomb per kg. Later, E by M ratio for any gas in a discharge tube, if you are taking any type of gas, it can be helium gas, it can be hydrogen gas, any gas if you are replacing in the discharge tube, it is found that the cathode rays emitted from the cathode, irrespective of the metal which you are choosing as a cathode, irrespective of that metal plate, E by M ratio is independent of gas in the tube and also metal which you are choosing as a cathode. And finally, they concluded E by M ratio for all these negatively charged particles for any gas remained same. It is 1.76 into 10 power 11 coulomb per kg. So conclusion is that J.J. Thomson have first named these cathode rays as negatively charged particles, and he calculated speed of these particles and also E by M ratio, that is specific charge of these negatively charged particles, and he concluded that it is independent of gas which you are choosing and also the cathode which you are choosing. These are the conclusions from second slide. So students, let us just give a brief recapitulation of conclusions from this slide. So after J.J. Thomson have conducted the experiment in 1887, and he concluded that the nature of charged particles which are emitted in the discharge tube experiment is independent of the metal which you are choosing as cathode and the gas which you are taking in the discharge tube. And later in 1887, that means in the same during the same time, it has already it is also been proved that certain metals, when irradiated by the ultraviolet light, certain metals when they are irradiated by this ultraviolet light emitted the same negatively charged particles, and certain metals when you are heating them, even they emit these negatively charged particles. So one unification has been made here. In discharge tube experiment, there are negatively charged particles coming out, that is in gases. Similarly, when you are taking metal plate and irradiated with light, there are some negatively charged particles which are coming out from the metal plates. Likewise, if you are heating a metal plate, there are some negatively charged particles which are coming out from those metal plates. So same, like in the same period 1887, people have even discovered this also. And finally, they have concluded that all, even solid, liquid, gases, they do have these negatively charged particles which are fundamental. So in 1897, finally, J.J. Thomson concluded that these particles are electrons, which are negatively charged particles, and they are fundamental. These negatively charged particles are fundamental, and these are universal constituents of matter. They are universal constituents of matter. For this epoch making discovery, J.J. Thomson have got Nobel Prize in year 1906. And after that, R.A. Millikan, who is American scientist, Millikan have calculated charge of the electron by his outstanding oil drop experiment. So from oil drop experiment, charge of the electron was calculated, and charge of electron is observed to be 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb. And finally, Millikan have concluded that this electric charge is quantized irrespective of the type of oil, irrespective of size of the oil. It is observed that the charge is always integral multiples of 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb. So thus he concluded that charge is quantized. These are the conclusions which has been observed from this slide. So J.J. Thomson outstanding conclusion and Millikan oil drop experiment, conclusions from Millikan oil drop experiment. These are the outstanding informations from this slide. So students, the study of electrons and modern physics has been started in 20th century. After the discovery of electron from J.J. Thomson experiment, after the conclusions of J.J. Thomson's experiment, the structure of atom has been completely made different. So far, atom itself, like before 1906, it was atom which is treated to be as the building block of all the matter. But later, from discharge tube experiment, electron was being discovered, and after that, the structure of atom should be reframed. And at the same time, during that era, during 19 not like in the first decade of 1901 to 1910. That means in the first decade of 20th century. It is also like some remarkable experiments led to conclusion that when metal plates are exposed to light and heat, they emit these negatively charged particles. Of course, we are now familiar with those negatively charged particles. They are named as electron. In the beginning of 20th century, they are already named as electrons. So remarkable statements, remarkable experiments were concluded in the beginning of 20th century, out of which Hertz experiment is one of the important experiment which concludes that when a light is being incidented on a metal plate, electron emission takes place. So that is what we are going to see in this slide. Electron emission and what are Hertz observations from this electron emission experiment. So of course, Hertz has first discovered that when a metal plate is irradiated by ultraviolet radiations, it emits some negatively charged particles. Those negatively charged particles are called now electrons. And this can happen in three different ways. Electron emission by the metal surface can take place in three different ways. Number one, it is thermionic emission. Thermionic emission means you are suitably heating, that means you are sufficiently providing thermal energy to a metal plate so that electron gain thermal energy and they come out from the metal surface. That is one way electrons can be emitted. It is called thermionic emission. And the second type of emission is field emission. Field emission is that by applying very strong electric field, we are providing very strong electric field, which is of a range 10 power 8 volt per meter to a metal. Because of that, electrons can be pulled out of the metal surface. Just like how spark plug in bikes we use generally, in bike and in automobiles, we will be using a spark plug which emit electrons. Such type of emission is called field emission. And the third type of emission is photoelectric emission. When a light of suitable frequency is illuminated on a metal surface, the electrons are emitted from the metal surface. Such electrons which are emitted when the light is incidented on the metal plate, it is said to be photoelectron. So these are the three different ways an electron can be emitted from a metal surface. Number one, it is thermionic emission. We will heat a metal so that electrons come out. Number two, it is a field emission. We will provide some potential difference to a metal plate. As a result, electrons come out. That is number two. Number three is we will be irradiating a metal with a light. As a result, electrons come out. That is photoelectric emission. About thermionic emission and field emission, we are not going to discuss here. We will be learning about photoelectric emission hereafter in this chapter. And the conclusions of this experiment will be discussed in next coming slides. But time being, you just remember that a light is irradiating this metal surface. So you are taking a metal and upon that metal, a light is being incidented. Corresponding to that, there are some electrons ejected out from the metal surface. You are able to see that in the animation clearly. And for particular metal plate, this is a metal plate and this is a light. And here electrons are being ejected out. And in this case, there are like you are providing some light here. For all light, of course, we have different wavelengths of light. Cosmic rays, gamma rays, ultraviolet, visible, infrared. In electromagnetic spectrum, we have distinguished them. For all those radiations, same thing does not happen. If you are taking a metal plate, like this is a metal plate, I am naming it as 1 or metal A. For this metal A, when you are providing light of certain frequency, for this metal plate, there may not be any electron. No emission is possible. Likewise, if you are changing the frequency for the same metal A, when you are changing the frequency, here it is frequency nu1, here it is frequency nu2. The light frequency has been changed. For this particular frequency, you are able to see that some electrons are being ejected out. Likewise, beyond this frequency nu1, here nu2 is greater than nu1 and nu3 is also greater than nu1. This is frequency nu3. For frequency nu3 also, you are able to get some electrons ejected from the metal surface. Therefore, electrons are bound on metal surface with some energy. And this energy required is called work function. It is called work function. Work function is minimum energy required to remove electron from metal. Okay. Therefore, the energy of light should be greater than work function of the metal surface. If the energy provided by the light is greater than the work function of electron from that particular metal surface, then only it can knock out from metal surface. That is first condition to be remembered. This is how electron emission can take place in any of these three different ways. Hereafter, we will be learning only photoelectric emission and conclusions of Hertz experiment in this particular chapter.